consecutive home win with a walk-off by Kody Clemens. And we've got to recap it all. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast presented by Bet365. You can download the Bet365 app and use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
It took some of their money last night.
Yes, it's never ordinary for the Phillies.
The Jets are still the Jets.
Step up. Okay, Jamie.
When I take Bet365's money, I'm going to let the people know. I'm going to put my chest out there and talk about it. So thank you, Bet365. Yeah.
Bet365, never ordinary. And also, it's never ordinary the Phillies' ability to have different guys step up. Buddy Kennedy, Kody Clemens, we'll talk about that. Kyle Schwarber, we'll get into pitching. Christopher Sanchez, looking ahead to preview tonight's matchup with Ranger Suarez on the mound. And we've got our buddy Jim Salisbury joining us very shortly, actually, to be able to recap. He put out a phenomenal piece last night about the game that you guys can check out on allphly.com if you haven't already to read Jim's article. But, guys, we've had a night to sleep on it since our post-game show last night. And it was not the biggest offensive game, but it came down to a couple guys making big plays. Happy Tuesday to everybody in the chat. Connor, Chris, K-Red, Philly, JRB, everybody tuned in on Twitter, on YouTube, on Roku. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the fact the Phillies gave us a victory show last night and a chance to now come into today talking through how they battled out and grinded out yet another win, which has been the MO of this team. Not always pretty, but every time they're finding a different way to win, and they're finding ways to have different players step up. It was Buddy Kennedy last night and Kody Clemens late in the stretch with big plays in their at-bats. But overall, this team, a win is a win. And they continue to have the NL East lead. The Mets have passed the Braves. The Phillies are still sitting in a good spot, 7 games ahead. And they're still in the hunt with the Dodgers for that first-round bye. So things are feeling great right now for the Phillies.
Yeah, some really cool stuff happened last night. Like, this year, Tyler Phillips and Buddy Kennedy got to do every little kid's dream. Oh. And that's come up to bat, wearing the Phillies pinstripes, or not at bat, but on the mound for Tyler Phillips, and wear the Phillies jersey in front of your home crowd at a stadium that you went to. And, do the majority of Phillies fans know who Buddy Kennedy is? Probably not. Did it stop them from doing a super cool hometown kid, Buddy chant? Absolutely not. That was a really cool atmosphere from Christopher Sanchez dealing last night to Buddy Kennedy and Kody Clemens being the guys that frankly lifted Bryce Harper up. And then I think a really cool thing happened after the game where Bryce Harper, got in front of it. So, and apologized to his manager and showed great leadership. So I think a bunch of cool things happened last night in Phillies land. And, it could be one of those wins you look back on in 2 weeks and go like, hell yeah. Like they really kind of came together on that game.
I think there's always human elements to the season, and I thought last year the Michael Lorenzen,
Sure.
The Michael Lorenzen no-hitter was probably as close. Well, probably that and Orion Kerkering, making his skyrocketing debut from, single A to the majors within a 12-month gap. There's always human sides to things that kind of transcend the game a little bit. It makes it even better when you win that game. Tyler Phillips, for the most part, has had a rough go of things as a starter for the Phillies. But I will say this.
They'll always have that moment.
The complete game against Cleveland will always be a standout moment for him. Buddy Kennedy last night. I don't know what this guy contributes, even in the short term, because a majority of the Phillies guys that are on the IL or that are banged up are set to return shortly. And I don't think Buddy Kennedy's stay with the Major League club is going to extend that long, but to be able to contribute in a way, a meaningful way like he did last night, there's always that human side to it. That's always a really cool experience for both fan and for player, especially for a guy in Phillips and Kennedy's case where, you're kind of homegrown, if you will.
And I think those moments are contagious too. That's something that you look at last night, the chance, obviously also for them being able to, as you mentioned, Jamie, you live out a childhood dream. How many of us have gone to games
That's so cool.
and dreamed of being on that court, that field, that pitch, and to have that full circle moment? You have family in attendance. You have people there rooting for you. I know for Buddy, he even was talking about his, connection with having his grandfather who played with the Phillies and his grandfather.
I believe his grandfather hit the
Don Money
in Veterans Stadium history.
Veterans Stadium. He hit the first home run in Veterans Stadium history in 1971. Played for the Phillies for 5 seasons from 68 to 72.
Great name.
And now, full circle moment, your grandson is now playing with the Phillies and has a moment to help them win a game. Honestly, that's contagious. And I think that when you look at this season as a whole, something that has helped them tremendously is every time a guy gets called up, whether it's Buddy, Kody, Weston, Tyler, Phillips, Tyler Gilbert, whoever it is, everybody that gets called up has their moment. And that moment transcends beyond just that play, that at bat, to help pick up the clubhouse a little bit. And with this team, with the amount of injuries that they've had, to have guys come in and step up and make big plays, it's such a positive that you don't even have to now think about, oh, how would the team have looked with Alec Boehm? How would they look with JT? How would they look with Edmundo Sosa? It doesn't matter. They've got Buddy Kennedy. They've got Kody Clemens last night. They've got Weston Wilson. They've got Sosa was it for Trey Turner. So it also just allows you to not have to focus on all the what ifs of if they were healthy. If they had
I think Bryce Harper doing that last night is a reason why their culture is great. And, you know, Kody Clemens and all these kids have talked about like walking into a locker room full of superstars like that. And then Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper come over, put their arm around them and say, you know, like, you're here to help us win games, kid. Let us know what we can do for you. And I think the veteran leadership is what makes this team so special. And I think Bryce Harper was full on display with that last night, because he doesn't need to say anything to his teammates. Like, his teammates know Bryce Harper well enough to know that he regrets that. But he owed Rob Thompson an apology, he thought. And I think that type of stuff goes a long way to building the great culture they have.
It does. And it was great to see, as you mentioned, even Harper, as he's saying, like, just a great at bat, you did your job. Those are those moments, something so small that Bryce says or does, a pat on the back, a smile, a good job, in addition to just welcoming you into the clubhouse, gives you that confidence when it's your turn to step up to help the team win the game. So, you know, I love the fact that he not only had the accountability, but also had the awareness and the support. And, you know, the guys, like, as Kody and Buddy are talking about, you're on the field, you're celebrating, it's a party, you know, the fans are celebrating, you're celebrating on the field. And as Buddy Kennedy was just kind of reminiscing on that moment, it's chilling, because this is what, as you mentioned, Tyler, it's bigger than baseball. It's bigger than results. It's a moment to see guys living out their dreams and that full circle moment of those, you know, major milestones in your career. But guys, you know what? When you have major milestones in your career, you want to make sure you can celebrate and feel good. And you can do that with our friends over at Z-Biotics, the place to go to make sure you can change the game, because this product is great before you're going out for a night of fun. It's pre-alcohol. So I just had my birthday this past Saturday. Maybe you're going to a game, like Jamie's going to the Phillies game tonight. Maybe you're going to a party or whatever it may be that you're going to hang out and have some fun and know you're going to be drinking. Well, when you are drinking responsibly, the responsibility can start beforehand with pre-alcohol. And with Z-Biotics, their pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. Invented by a PhD scientist, it tackles rough mornings after drinking by getting you ahead of the curve. So they can't guarantee all the symptoms and things that you will or will not feel, but what they can help with is making sure to use when you use their products, you're going to get your alcohol is going to get converted into less dehydrating products, in the sense that you're not going to feel dehydrated. You're not going to feel as rough the next day, because they're going to give you the enzymes to break down the alcohol so your body can feel good. We're getting older. I just turned a year older. I feel it, every little bit of it. And as you get older, you want to make sure you're also just enjoying these moments even more, because you want to have that first drink of the night and all the rest to follow feel good, so you can enjoy these special moments with your friends, with your family, that you're safely and responsibly drinking. So when you keep hearing about pre-alcohol and you're wondering what it's like, you can try it for yourself. And Z-Biotics, now that I know we've had a chance to talk about it and share about it and try it ourselves, it's, believe the hype, fantastic. And with their GMO technology, they will release different products that help address toxic byproducts of modern living in the gut. You can go to zbiotics.com/PHLY Phillies to learn more, and also get 15% off your first order when you use that code PHLY Phillies at checkout. Z-Biotics, which is backed with 100% money back guarantee, so that if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. So again, head on over to zbiotics.com/PHLY Phillies. Take advantage of checking out the delicious and the very proactive pre-alcohol that they provide to make you feel good for all the fun times ahead.
You know the name, you know the jingle, and that's because Empire Today has stood the test of time. Right now, listeners of our show can go to empiretoday.com/PHLY, and you can get $350 off new floors. With Empire Today, you get the shop-at-home convenience, the right products for your need, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. They got the best new floors around, and the at-home aspect is frankly the best. Who likes going to a big box store where you're lost and can't get the help you're looking for? Well, Empire Today will come right to your house, and with their virtual floor designer, they can show you what their floors are going to look like in your house right there. So you get a full grasp of the situation. And the Empire Today people are not going to put anything in your home they wouldn't put in their own. They're not going to beat you over the head with thousands of samples. They're going to pick the very best and listen to your needs and wants and help figure out and not overwhelm you. The virtual floor designer, you'll see it right there with their shop-at-home convenience. It's great. And they service their own warranty. So if something does arise, just call Empire directly. They service the warranties themselves. You're not going to have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can get that $350 discount when they use the promo code PHLY. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHLY for details.
All right. Well, last night was very electric and an exciting atmosphere. So why not bring in the man that was down there covering it all, that got to see it all in person at Citizens Bank Park, our buddy Jim Salisbury. Jim, happy Tuesday. How are you? And how are you after last night? We heard the chants for Buddy Kennedy. We heard the chants for Kody Clemens. We got the walk-off single by Kody, and Citizens Bank Park was rocking. You had a fantastic piece just recapping it all. Can you share a little bit about what that atmosphere was like in that win for the Phillies last night?
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere. Philadelphia fans, in general, all four sports are just, they're amazing. And when their teams are good, their passion just explodes, and they're so fun and so creative. And that ninth inning, when that kid Buddy Kennedy came to the plate, and I mean his name kind of lends itself to a chant,
Sure does.
Buddy,
Yeah.
Buddy, and he's a local kid, right? And the whole stadium starts chanting his name with the game on the line, tie game, runners on base. And they're chanting Buddy, Buddy rhythmically, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's so organic. It's not like the scoreboard was saying chant Buddy Kennedy's name. This just happened. It was like I was sitting up in the press box with Matt Gelb. We just were laughing. It was just really, really fun to see. And why else would you go to a ball game but to have fun? And it was a really fun night down there. I mean, the home team won. Kyle Schwarber hit a massive home run, both in importance on the scoreboard and in distance. It went, I forgot what it went, like 450 or something. Just absolutely killed it. He's on fire, 6 home runs in 7 games. Christopher Sanchez pitched to beauty. But, that was a really, really interesting ninth inning. Your superstar, Bryce Harper, scorches the ball. He hasn't hit a home run in 26 games. It's up to 27 now. But he scorches this ball that, hey, it would have been a home run if he was that much under it, like millimeter. But it was a line drive. It hits the top of the wall. He doesn't run. He goes into a premature home run trot, and he ends up on first base when he should have been on second base in a tie game and in scoring position. Big mistake by him. But 2 kids, Kennedy and then Kody Clemens. And one of the big underlying narratives of this team is how banged up they are, and they got important guys on the IL. Well, they bring up Kennedy and Clemens in the last week or so to take the spot of injured players. Kennedy works, 3-2, fouls off 96 up in the zone, nasty pitch, has a great at bat, draws a walk, and then Clemens, another kid who came up, wins it, and they bail out Harper where he could have been, really in the crosshairs today. I mean, he put his hand up after the game and said, I should have run that out. It was my bad. Good to see. But a really fun win because of the 2 guys, I think, at the end who helped you win it, and the studs, Sanchez and Schwarber, who helped you win it. And then there was that almost unbelievable catch by Rojas. I mean, the camera work on that was phenomenal. You could see his body hit the wall, his glove hit the wall, the ball come out, the ball's hanging there. Trey Turner's reaction, Estevez's reaction. But you know what? They're at that any time of the year you need victories, but right now they're knocking off days on the calendar, and if you can put a W on that square, you're doing great. So fun, entertaining night at the ballpark. The players did their job, and the fans certainly did their job as well. They made it a lot of fun.
Yeah, Jim, tied with the Dodgers now for the best record in baseball. I wanted to talk to you about that Bryce Harper thing because Renee and I were talking about it. We've seen Kody Clemens this year step up. We've seen other kids come up. And the one thing they all kind of say is like walking into that locker room can be intimidating. And then you have a Kyle Schwarber and a Bryce Harper come up to you and put your arm around you and say, like, you're here to help us win, kid. Let's go. And I think you saw Bryce Harper's leadership on display last night in the dugout. It's probably not something he has to go tell his teammates. They know he was pissed and regretted that. But I think the veteran leadership on this club is really special. And I think that was a small example of it.
Yeah, I mean, accountability is part of leadership, and he realized he messed up, and he was accountable to his manager and his teammates. I mean, that's a good thing. But, you still want to see him run out of the box. I mean,
sure.
And I understand the euphoria. You haven't hit a home run in a month, and you might have just hit a game-winning home run with the crowd on its feet.
Sure.
You kind of want to watch it a little bit. It's almost human nature. But, when you pull a ball like that to right field, you can run and watch it because you're running down the first base line. And then as you cross first base and it lands in some guy's lap in section, 220 or whatever is out there, that's when you pull up. So, like I said, it could have been a firestorm today if they lost.
Oh, he's very thankful for Buddy Kennedy and Kody Clemens. Yeah,
he's very thankful for Buddy, and Kody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that easily could have gone left had that not played out so well with Buddy and Kody coming up clutch. Another guy that's been clutch lately, as you talked about, you mentioned it with his 34th home run of the season, that 447-foot bomb that he hit in the bottom of the sixth. He's Kyle Schwarber. I hit in 8 straight games. At the time, the Phillies were hitless, which in itself was something that we were waiting for. Who was going to break through first? It was Kyle Schwarber. So 6 home runs, 9 extra base hits, 13 hits in his past 7 games. He's made some history, even with having his 127th home run with the Phillies. Put him in some category with Hall of Famer Jimmy Fox and guys like Mark McGwire and Alex Rodriguez to accomplish that, their first 3 seasons with any club. Kyle Schwarber has been phenomenal lately. Down the stretch, he's been one of the biggest pieces of this offense that has really been consistently stepping up, providing them big plays. I'm interested, Jim, and I know we both are, I should say, where does Kyle Schwarber rank for you in terms of like unique players that you've covered? Because I feel like whether from the narrative around him to just all he provides to the team, who he is in terms of as a player, but even off the field as just a great humanitarian and a great guy, where does he kind of compare to some of the tremendous talents that you've been fortunate to cover over the years?
Yeah, you're right. He is a great humanitarian, a great person. He does a lot of really meaningful charity work. He's the team's Roberto Clemente Award nominee. He has that foundation that assists first responders. Coincidentally, Wednesday night is first responder night at the ballpark. And it comes in the week he's nominated for the Roberto Clemente Award. I've covered a lot of guys that really have that great community spirit and that charitable heart. And he's right in line with some of the best ones. I covered a lot of great players who are really good leaders in the clubhouse. He's one of the best I've ever seen because of his genuineness, the way he cares about his teammates. I think the fact that he struggled a good bit earlier in his career after having some success, he struggled and he fought his way back. He's able to relate those experiences to younger players who might be going through those struggles, because let's face it, it's baseball. You're going to struggle. It's a game rooted in failure. So he's a nurturing guy. He's a caring guy, and it's completely authentic. He just cares about his teammates. He cares about winning. He cares about helping people. He's just a good person. Player-wise, very unique in that you don't usually see a guy with that type of power hitting first, leading off. So that in itself makes him very unique. I'd have to think about most unique players I've ever seen. Honestly, Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay come to mind.
Sure.
Just like that, only in the fact that we've seen the complete game disappear. Kurt Schilling, I covered those 3 guys, and all 3 of those guys took the mound with the intention of going 9 innings that night. I'm not coming out of this game. I'm going to finish it. I don't know anybody that takes the mound with that mindset anymore to pitch 9 innings. So that kind of, at least framed against what baseball has become, makes them unique in terms of guys I've covered up close. From afar, I've covered, Ohtani. He's very unique. I mean, the way he hits, pitches, and steals bases. I mean, he's going to be a 50-50 guy probably.
Ooh, yeah.
I'll tell you one other guy I covered a lot of that may not consider unique, but Mike Piazza was unique in that. And I covered a lot of him when he was with the Dodgers and the Mets. Anytime I was on the road in Dodger Stadium or Shea Stadium, I'd try to catch up with him and write something, because local guy and great player. People are going to read it. And a really good guy, down-to-earth superstar. Really always a pleasure to deal with Mike Piazza. But I'd have to think, we don't see a lot of catchers that we're hitting 340,
he's the greatest offensive catcher ever, right, Jim?
Yeah. And he was hitting not just bombs, he's hitting 340.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a unique player, but I'd probably have to think, I'm sure there's a ton of guys out there. But Schwarber, for the fact that he hits the top of the order with all that power, everybody spends the winter squawking that he can't lead off, but you know what? They missed the postseason 10 straight years. He shows up, batting leadoff. They're going to the postseason 3 straight years. He's hit an awful lot of home runs. He sets a lot of tones with that long ball early in the game, first inning. And then, last night, as you mentioned, they're getting no hit, and he turns that game around with one swing. Awfully exciting player. People, fans love power. On the golf course, they love it. You want to see the guy who can hit at 350. Hockey, and we love big, guys with big shots. Love big fastballs, power. Love big hits in football, power. Who doesn't get charged up by a 60-yard field goal? That's power. Kyle Schwarber brings power to the batter's box every time he steps in it. That's exciting for the fans. Yes, unique player, great player, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, great signing by the Phillies.
Yeah, it could be one of their all-times when you crunch, per million value on return. One of the guys, Jim, that they locked up this offseason, or actually, in season, was Christopher Sanchez. Got a 4-year, $22.5 million contract extension with the Phils. He was spectacular last night. On a night when you were getting no hit through 5. He had elevation in terms of miles per hour on 2/3 of his pitches by 2 miles an hour. It seemed like he was up for the moment. He's tremendous at home. He's having a great year. Talk about Christopher Sanchez a little bit, because this guy has really been a steady, reliable kind of stalwart there in the middle of the rotation, and he's been tremendous this year.
Great words, steady and reliable. I mean, what 2 great adjectives for a starting pitcher, right? Those are adjectives I think that you attach to Wheeler and Nola, and Suarez early in the season. He's adding that to his resume. I thought we saw flashes last year. This is not to me a total surprise. I thought he had really pockets last year.
He hit a really nice end of the year last year.
Yeah, where he pitched really well, and you got to thinking, hey, might be something here. And you know what? There is something here. So many things you could talk about there, from the excellent trade acquisition by Matt Klentak and his group. They leaned heavily on their pro scouts in that deal. Their player development people, both at the big league and the minor league level, have brought him along. And then him himself. He's really, really, it takes time sometimes for a pitcher. He's 27 years old. He's really come into his own. Very impressed with the control. He doesn't walk people.
Yeah.
Or at least
no walks last night, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think he's 6 straight starts or 11 straight starts with 2 or fewer walks. That's pretty good.
Yeah, he had 1 last night. He had 1.
So, and one of the things is keeping your team in the game, and you do that with quality starts. He's got 16 quality starts, second most in baseball for a left-hander, right behind Chris Sale, who's got 17. He's had a terrific year. One of the kind of the storylines it's emerging. Is he your number 3 guy as you go into the playoffs? Because you might be a series where you only need 3 guys.
Well,
maybe
is that series at home or on the road?
I was going to say, it depends on where that series is at this point.
You have to take that because his home and road splits are dramatic. He's pitched really well at home. He's going to ERA over 5 on the road. I think they'll take all that stuff into consideration. But hey, you know what? If you're a Phillies fan, you're glad he's on your team, and he's got a lot of upside. I think it's been a great year. Big jump in innings. So last night was really, with the velocity ticking up a little bit, that was really great to see because he's had a big jump in innings this year from his career high and big jump from last year. So it was a nice, cool night. It just shows maybe he's still got some thunder, even, at a time when some guys are fatigued. He's still giving you really good efforts, and they've still got a lot of baseball to play. So I think he could be a real big factor for them in the month of October. He certainly has earned his chances, and great to see him keep that game close last night. Because, like you said, this is like 3 games now where we've looked up in the 6th inning now in the last couple of weeks, and there being no hit. So he did a great job keeping him in it until Superman Schwarber could awaken that place.
Yeah, the starting pitching continues to be the backbone of this team and has really tremendously helped them. Just having little to no damage to allow the offense to muster up runs and win games and grind out wins. I do want to ask you, though, as you mentioned Chris Sale. Well, last night we saw the Braves did drop 1-0 loss to the Cincinnati Reds. The Mets beat the Blue Jays 3-2. So the Mets are on a nice little winning streak. They've actually won 9 of their last 10. And with that, they've jumped the Braves in standings. I know we're all keeping eyes on the magic number and the playoff picture. Well, as of right now, it's a battle between the Mets and the Braves for that final wild card spot. You look across the NL, the Padres, the Diamondbacks are sitting in a really good spot with 80 and 81 wins. Mm-hmm. Of course, the Dodgers and Phillies are really locking in and hopefully going to lock in on those top 2 spots. Who do you think is getting that final wild card spot between the Braves and the Mets? There's a lot there.
Philly's got a lot with the Mets.
A couple weeks. There's a few weeks left. There's about 18 games remaining for teams, depending on where they are in their schedule. Mets or Braves, Jim, right now, what are you feeling on this September 10th?
Well, I mean, there's a lot there. We've kind of lived through this. And remember 2007 when it was the Mets who had the 7.5 game lead on the Phillies with 17 to play, and then the Mets ended up squandering it, and the Phillies took it from them to win the division. Actually, I don't see that happening. To me, the Phillies are winning this division, but that doesn't mean we're not going to see some. What do you got there?
That is a cork from that game, Jim.
Wow.
Where'd you get that?
On the locker room floor.
You were in there?
I was in there.
And you took that from the clubhouse?
Yes,
I took a cork. They were everywhere.
Okay.
It's very, very cool thing, I thought.
Yeah, I was in there too. It was kind of surreal that whole day.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Then they get off to that, the Phillies or the Marlins jumped on Tom Glavine.
Wasn't it Dontrell Willis? Because I think I asked Jimmy about his buddy Dontrell helping them out, if I'm not mistaken.
It might. They beat up Glavine, the Marlins. I know that.
Yeah, I think it was Dontrell.
But that ain't happening this year. The Phillies are not blowing the season. The Phillies, obviously, it's not happening in reverse. The Phillies chase down the Mets. The Mets aren't chasing down the Phillies. I just think the Phillies have too much good veteran leadership and too much playoff know-how gained in recent years to not cash this thing in or take it to the postseason. That said, doesn't mean it can't be really exciting. I mean, 7 of your final 16 are against the Mets, who have so much to play for, who are on a great roll, who are feeling it. I mean, they just lost Jeff McNeil. Sometimes when you lose a good player to an injury, everybody fights a little harder, And I just think we're going to see a really interesting – it's become a fascinating series at week's end with the Mets coming in and the Phillies going up there for 4.
ESPN agrees with you.
What's that?
I said ESPN agrees with you. They said, give me that game for Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. And then the Braves, they got to play the Dodgers. They have a lot to play for. They want that home field like the Phillies do. So everybody involved still has a lot to play for. But these Mets are on a roll. They're on a surge. They're feeling it. They're feeling special. I think, and the Braves, They haven't played terrible, but they haven't played as good as the Mets. But they have sustained so many losses with big injuries, and you just wonder if they have that final kick in them. You just wonder. And they play the Mets too. The Braves and Mets have a big series, final second to last week, I think. It's going to be a really good finish. The Mets have a 1-game lead now. I feel like they could end up just pulling this thing out and beating out the Braves. I think the Braves are a tough team. They're a character team. I just wonder, like I said, they've sustained so many losses. Do they have enough left in that whip? We're going to find out, and we're going to have fun watching it because it's such a long season. And then all of a sudden it comes down to this late season intensity where, you throw away that cliche about it being a marathon. Now it's it's a very intense sprint. And though the Phillies are safe in the postseason, they're part of that sprint, part of the sprint to get that first round bye and maybe get the best record in baseball, to get the home field, to hold off the Mets. We're going to see. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, as you mentioned.
It's tough, Jim, who I hate more, Mets or Braves. Like, I don't know, because the Braves ruined my childhood in the 90s. They just dominated a decade. And then, like, New Yorkers are more kind of annoying because I went to college with a lot of New York sports fans, and the battles we had were great. So I'm, like, conflicted which fan base I hate more, and I suffer more for their sorrows. So I'm torn. I think it's the Braves, though, because they ruined my childhood.
Fair.
Well, it's just great theater, though, when everybody hates each other. In a good way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, exactly. So as you mentioned, the Braves do have a 4-game series with the Dodgers up next. They do have the Royals as their final series, and that Mets-Braves series, September 24th, is one to circle because it's going to be exciting. But the Mets have, as you said, the Phillies, the Braves, and they close out against the Brewers. So you love the fact that you get to play against, for especially the Mets and the Braves. You're playing against teams that you're battling for that wild card spot. For the Phillies and Dodgers, they get a chance to help extend that NL lead to hold on to that home field advantage. Lots to play for, Jim, as you mentioned. So it's exciting times right now with the playoffs so close.
Yeah, this is hey, this team Phillies have a huge payroll. They've invested so much financially in this team. They have star power. They have had a great season. They've been to the postseason 2 years in a row. There's so much importance attached to any postseason, but to me, there's a ton. It's almost immeasurable how much importance is attached to this coming postseason, because they're getting older, and we see a lot of guys banged up. They have star players, but star players get north of 30 and they get banged up. They got to cash in on one of these. The stakes are very high. They got to cash in this postseason, next postseason. To me, the odometer is running on this team. And October is the month that is going to define the 2024 Phillies, not those first couple 2.5 months where they were otherworldly and were 40-19. What's going to define this team is their performance in October, and we are almost there.
I know.
Yeah, looking
Not
forward
to mention, the 2022 World Series run was a surprise that we were very excited about. Last season was, a little bit in between, but this season there's so much expectation with how well they start off the season, their payroll, the talent. They've got the pieces. We'll see how it continues to come together, though, Jim. As always, we appreciate you so much for your fantastic work. Guys, again, if you haven't checked out Jim's article that he dropped, it's on allphly.com, recapping last night's excitement and the win. And Jim, looking forward to having you back on again with us very soon to continue talking about more Phillies wins.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. Keep that guy in line.
See you, buddy.
Yeah. It is wild to think about how much expectation is on the season for this year compared to previous seasons for the Phillies, where, you were just hoping to sneak into the playoffs, hoping to have a run, hoping to see what would happen. Whereas now, guys, like the expectation's there. This is a group that you feel like can really go the distance. They've been doing a lot to invest in their future and plan for their future. And you know where you guys can plan for your futures, though, and invest financially, that is It's with our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Because at TrueMark Financial Credit Union, they have a lot of different benefits for you that you can take advantage of, knowing where your money is, being able to plan for your future. And let's say you're traveling for a Phillies away game. You know, they are in their second to last homestand. They've got a stretch of away games coming up, including that Mets series. Let's say you want to travel. Well, with our friends at TrueMark Financial Credit Union, it's easy to keep track of your spending with their mobile app. They have a mobile app that allows you to access your account anytime, anywhere, check your balances, view transactions, make transfers, pay bills, and much more from the convenience of your phone. You could be sitting at the ballpark, checking your account. You can be waiting in line, checking your transactions. You can be at the register to pay for your delicious drink or food and making transfers. And also with TrueMark, they also have benefits like better rates, lower fees. Plus, if you're looking to, say, buy a house, they've got mortgage specialists that are ready to offer guidance on loan options and terms that will help you assess your finances and credit score to determine your borrowing capacity to allow you to be able to save for that down payment and budget for closing costs. Our friends at TrueMark just had a pickleball event this past weekend on September 7th, my birthday. I know Jamie was there. I know we had a bunch of us there from PHLY, a phenomenal event just to provide some financial education and financial literacy for those in attendance and to raise money towards a great cause. And also at TrueMark Financial, they're helping you keep your money in check as well. So TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, if you want to get started today, head on over to truemark.com/PHLY. Again, visit truemark.com/PHLY for more information today.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was out at the TrueMark pickleball event, as you mentioned there, Renee, on Saturday. It was a great time hanging with the people. TrueMark had a great event. We got to auction off or raffle off some Phillies tickets. And it was a great time for a great cause in their financial literacy program. But, you know, if you yourself are looking for some tickets, another place I got to tell you about is the Game Time app. I've used the Game Time app a ton in this past year. I've used it for comedy shows on my birthday last year. Me and my wife have gone to a couple different concerts using the Game Time app. And when we were out in Chicago this year, we used the Game Time app. We were only originally supposed to go to one game at Wrigley Field for the Phillies series, and we were sitting at a Wrigleyville bar the night we weren't supposed to go, and we said, what are we doing? We're sitting here in Wrigleyville. Wrigley Field is right there a block away. Why don't we check the Game Time app and see how much ticket prices have dropped? If it's something we find is affordable, let's go for it. And we waited and we waited and we waited until the middle of the first inning, got some tickets last minute at a great price. It was easy as could be. Sent right to your email, 2 taps, download it right to the wallet, and you're off and into the stadium. They have priority Game Time picks. It makes it easier to save money on all your favorite tickets. The all-in pricing, because nobody wants to see a price and then get upcharged after that. So they just tell you what it is up front. You get image of your seat views, the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. What time? It always makes me think of Terry Tate.
Oh,
it was great. You really would like. You're like a motivational speaker.
You are. I felt excited.
What time is it? Game time.
That used to be some of our pregame chants that we would do. But we are, guys, nearing hopefully the return of some injured players. Just to get into some injury updates ahead of today's game, as we are talking about the injured, battered Phillies roster. Of course, everybody's dealing with injuries, some worse than others. That's a part of the game, especially in September. Nobody's 100% healthy. But what's the latest on the injuries? Well, we know that we've been keeping an eye closely on JT with that bone bruise on his leg. It is the other knee, not the knee he had his procedure on. I know they were saying he should be good for the Mets series. So he was out of the lineup yesterday after, he's dealing with fluid in his knee. In other words, swelling in his knee. And that left knee contusion and the swelling and fluid in his knee have been, causing him to be out. But hopefully he'll get back by the Mets series. they have had the opportunity now with his injury because of our buddy Rafael Marchand's also on the IL. Aramis Garcia got called up from Lehigh Valley as a backup catcher for Garrett Stubbs. Then
who also was getting pretty beat up and ragdolled in that.
Yes, he
what was
is.
that, Saturday or Sunday? Dude's taking bats to the temple and a ball to the face, sliding into second. Like, this team is just. And then Estevez last night takes a liner right off the knee. Now, my man is huge and didn't even like barely flinch at it. But that's one I wonder if he gets like a day or two to. That's one of those ones that you like feel 4 hours after it happens and you're like, oh, that was way worse than I thought.
That's one of those ones where you wake up the next day and you go,
yeah,
I am like,
why does my knee hurt? Oh, yeah, that's right. I got hit with a ball on the knee. But in the moment, the adrenaline definitely carries you, and you're obviously not thinking about it as much.
So I would be surprised to see him the next night or two.
You guys know what the first thing you do after that, if you get hit by a pitch or hit by a liner, you know what the first thing you do when you wake up the next morning? You're checking for seams.
Oh, yeah.
The seams like got imprinted. That's always a thing. Like, oh, you got hit by a pitch, you got seams?
Yeah.
Those seams are working that hard.
I used to always just jump right in the ice bath right after the game just to stay ahead of it, because I'm like, I already know there are so many injuries you get in the middle of a game. You have no idea. And then the next day you do have the cleat mark, the ball, whatever it is. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I did get hit by a pitch. I did get hit in the face. So we're keeping an eye because there's a lot of injuries that are happening. I don't know why there's so many foul balls and pitches and things that are causing some problems. Also, Austin Hayes, just really sad to hear this past weekend, the kidney infection that he's dealing with. He had to fly back to Philly from Toronto in Miami last week. So his IL stint was backdated to September 2nd, but it actually does not sound like he's going to be ready when he's first eligible. They're saying that he's working through it. He is feeling better, as Rob was mentioning, but his legs are still feeling very heavy. And of course, with it being his kidneys, that's something you absolutely have to take lightly and make sure that you can get rid of the infection fully. So it's going to be some time for him before he's back. And hopefully for Austin Hayes, it's nothing more serious. He was able to throw at Citizens Bank Park on Sunday, but he is, more importantly, trying to get himself back with his kidney. And then Sosa and Bohm, two guys. I was really caught off guard, guys, when Edmundo Sosa was out as well, because we've been so high on Edmundo Sosa as the bench piece that can fill in anywhere needed. But he is expected to return next Monday in Milwaukee. One on the IL, more back spasms, unfortunately, for the Phillies. We've seen Ranger dealing with back spasms. Zach Wheeler had back pain, and Sosa now dealing with back spasms. He's on the IL. And of course, Alec Bohm is still coming back from that left hand strain that he's been dealing with since August 29th with the inflammation as well. So injuries continue to be, an area that we're keeping a close eye on, because yes, this team has that next player up mentality, but you'd love to be a little bit closer to, as September rolls on, getting guys back. I know for like Alec, they mentioned he should be back plenty of time to be ready for the playoffs. That's kind of now the focus on my end is, can they get back into momentum and routine and, get good at bats leading into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, this time of the year, that's why I was pleading with Bryce Harper to go on the 10-day like 3 weeks ago. JT, right decision. Give him get off of that knee for the week. Alec Bohm, watch that live, and everybody that's played sports at some point in their life knows that awkward swing kind of ligament muscle feeling. As soon as that happened, I went, give him a week off. Like, get everybody right. As Jim said, this team is defined by what happens in 3 weeks, not necessarily the W's and L's that happen in the meantime. So get everybody healthy, get everybody right. As much as guys can get off their feet and get some rehab before the playoffs start, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and you're talking about earlier, like especially with catchers getting banged up. Stubbs was a little bit different because his was on the base path, but he did take the backswing to the back of the head at one point. So it's a combination of two things for catchers specifically. Hitters are as far back in the box as they've ever been. When guys are throwing 98, 99, 100, sometimes up to 104, you want every nanosecond of decision making that you possibly can. So guys are as far back in the box as they've ever been before. And then catchers are really far up. It's kind of a trend that's trended that way over the last couple of years. You saw it with Contreras with the Cardinals. That was the the worst of it, right?
Oh,
the arm injury was like the worst of it. But these guys are the catchers are creeping in and in and in a little bit further, because what they're trying to do is you see them go up, right? That's the new thing, is they're not the new thing, but they're going up to frame pitches at the bottom half of the zone. And the best way to do that is to cut the angle down as best as they can. So they're moved up in the box. You're seeing a lot more catchers get hit with backswings because of the combination of the two, where the hitter's as far back as they've ever been, and catchers are up and up and up in the box. It's a really bad combination. And I think the issue is the only thing that they're going to be able to do to nullify those type of like backswing injuries, those type of arm injuries, those type of, catcher's interference type of injuries. I don't think you can like say, hey, only the catcher has to move back, only the hitter has to move up. They would have to really dive deep into like those, like frame by frame type of things to see how it would work. The catchers are getting banged up. It's a position in history of nuisance injuries, and you take the foul ball off the shin or off the knee or whatever the case may be. But I think that those two combinations of things have not helped catchers' injuries over the last couple of years.
No, I completely agree with you. We're definitely seeing some. Yeah, the Contreras one was awful to look at, but we're definitely seeing some tough injuries, especially for catchers. Well, that being said, though, the Phillies are getting another opportunity back at home. They've won 3 in a row. They now also have across the NL, they have the 3rd ranked batting average as a team in the NL at .259. Their offense has been creeping back in. A big part of that is Kyle Schwarber in his 14 for 42 in the last 10 games, as well as a guy like Nick Castellanos.
9 extra base hits in those 14.
9 extra base hits. Exactly. 3 doubles, 6 home runs over the last 10 games. Kyle Schwarber has been a big boost for their offense that has outscored their opponents by 7 runs in those last 10 games, including a 7-3 record and a .269 batting average and a 4.10 ERA in their last 10 games. The Phillies are still grinding through, and today's another opportunity after the 6 scoreless innings for Christopher Sanchez for the starting pitching to, again, continue to be the backbone for this group as we get Ranger Suarez on the mound. Jamie, you're going to be down there to see your buddy Ranger pitch, so I'm sure you're thrilled for that. Ranger, with his 2.90 ERA, has a 12-6 record on the season, a 1.07 whip, and 132 strikeouts. We know we've been watching the pitch count slowly increase for Ranger coming out of his injury, so they've been ramping him back up. He's been able to pitch now in this last outing 82 pitches. We'll see what today holds, what his velocity holds, as he's going up against Taj Bradley, who's 6-10 on the season with a 4.40 ERA, a 1.21 whip, and 131 strikeouts. Biggest thing for me I'm watching for this matchup, as I mentioned with Ranger, is his pitch count and his velocity. 2 areas that, as they're slowly easing him back to be pre-All-Star game Ranger, you want to see if his numbers continue to tick upwards.
Yeah, I would imagine the Phillies would like to see him get to or around 90 pitches tonight as they kind of get him ready for the playoffs. So hopefully Ranger can do that. Velocity was down last time. Would love to see a little bit of an uptick there. The fans themselves are getting ready for Red October as well. So give them any sort of reason to cheer tonight, and you might be able to get that kind of stadium adrenaline behind you, and maybe that could increase you a mile an hour. So, hopefully it's a great crowd down there tonight. I'm sure it will be because we have a very good baseball team, and, there's a number 1 seed to play for. And the Dodgers and Phillies are both on pace for 96 wins. And luckily the Phillies hold that tiebreaker over the Dodgers because they bodied them this year. So if his velocity is down, I don't want to say it's time to start worrying, but it's time to start, like as Jim mentioned, maybe Christopher Sanchez, if the game's at Citizens Bank Park, kind of does get that 3rd game. We'll see what happens, but you certainly want to see Rangers' velocity return because he has been pitching great. His command and location have been on the money. It's just he's not what he was a couple months ago right now.
Yeah, and inversely for Taj Bradley, we talked about him a little bit yesterday. He's got really, really good stuff, but he's kind of had a rough go of things since the calendar turned to August, throwing a lot of pitches over a small inning sample size. Dating back to August 7th, 5 earned runs over 4 2/3 against St. Louis, a loss. 6 earned runs and 4 1/3 against Houston, a loss. Did give up 3 over 6 against Oakland, but did lose that one as well. The strikeouts were down across the board in that one too. Only 2 strikeouts over 6 innings, which is, a lower number for him. Gave up 5 over 6 against the Dodgers on the 24th. Then only went 2 1/3, gave up 8 hits, faced 17 batters and gave up 8 hits, gave up 8 earned runs against the Padres to end August. So an 0-4 month for Bradley, a guy with really good stuff, but has really kind of had a rough go of it as of late. He entered July with a 2.71 ERA and exited July with a 4.35 ERA. So a guy that you should be able to get after today, but I won't take anything away from him. His stuff is good. He's just really, really struggled in the month of August. Maybe he turns things around against this team. He did face a lot of really good offenses over that month. Now, St. Louis isn't, super potent, but he faced Oakland, a playoff team, the Dodgers, a playoff team, the Padres, a playoff team, the Twins, who are kind of knocking on the door of a playoff appearance, and then Oakland, who's been like one of the hottest teams in baseball since the All-Star break.
Baseball's weird.
They figured out their offense as well. So a difficult slate of games for Taj Bradley, but the numbers have not backed up the pretty good start that he had in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, what I always feel like with the Phillies is it comes down to if they go out and play their game. A lot of times if they are losing games, I feel like it's because of what the Phillies are doing wrong, not as much as what their opponent's doing right, if that makes sense. But it is another day going against Taj that you have a chance to go out, see if you can get after him early, get some aggressive at-bats, discipline still, though, and see if you can, who knows, jump on the scoreboard early and keep that momentum all the way through versus yesterday, hitless until Kyle Schwarber's home run. So the Phillies, as we know, wanting to lock in that first round bye, wanting to lock in home field advantage. They are 48-25 in their home games this season, in their 86-58 record overall. They are sitting there, as you mentioned, Jamie, tied with the Dodgers, but with the upper hand. Thank goodness they took care of business against the Dodgers this regular season series, because it does set them up very nicely for the postseason if that is a tiebreaker. But looking around the league, though, guys, as we get ready to wrap up, speaking of the Dodgers, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is expected to return, and Yamamoto, who has been dealing with a lot of injuries throughout the course of his start to this Major League Baseball career, him getting the start. You've got Shota Imanaga on the mound for Chicago. You've got that this stretch of the season, the Dodgers getting back a Yamamoto who's been dealing with a rotator cuff strain. Was sidelined. The rookie was out for 14 starts. This is major for the amount of injuries that we've seen. You get somebody like Imanaga back at this stretch. They already got, they've already been dealing with Tyler Glasnow, Clayton Kershaw, Gavin Stone. So this is a time teams are trying to get healthy, and for the Dodgers to get back somebody like Yamamoto, that's big.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've had to use 16 different guys to start games this year. Now, they're not all starters. They've used some openers and then gone to the bulk guy or whatever the case may be. But they've had 16 different pitchers start a game for them this year. We talk about the Phillies being a little bit banged up as of late. The Dodgers pitching staff, and I think maybe something needs to be looked into within the Dodgers organization as to why they have all these, really young, up and coming.
Another one, just one of their top prospects is gone with Tommy John. They're plagued with it. They need to correct something.
A ton of arm injuries for their starters.
That's not coincidence anymore at this point.
Right. I think that there is causation at this point. But they've had to use 16 starters throughout the season. It's, it becomes taxing. We've talked about the Phillies' relative, enjoyment of 4 of their 5 starters. And you can cycle in the beginning of the season where Spencer Turnbull was great. It's really difficult to maintain a level of success when you're running out that many starting pitchers. The Dodgers have done a really nice job of weathering a lot of injury storms, not just to their pitching, but of course, like Mookie Betts has missed time. Freddie Freeman has missed time. Max Muncy's missed time. Like there's a lot of different guys that have missed a lot of time for this team. And they've done a really good job of weathering a lot of storms. But to get a guy like Yamamoto back, even if it's at 70%, I think is massive for their pitching staff.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are getting better at the most important time of the year. Yamamoto is a huge addition to a team, and luckily for the Phillies, they know mentally that they're not scared by the Dodgers. It's weird. Steve Garrison in the chat says, "How can they go 5-1 versus the Dodgers, but 7-6 versus the Marlins?" That's just divisional baseball. The Marlins have had the Phillies number for a long time. It's like the more you know a team, the less of an advantage you kind of have over them. It is what it is. But, the games versus the Dodgers and other playoff caliber teams like the Brewers series coming up, the Mets series coming up, those are the real tests. So forget, and who cares what you do against the Marlins? You dominated the Dodgers this year. You have a really good opportunity with the schedule left to head into the playoffs, beating some really good teams and maybe giving yourself that pick-me-up that you might need heading into a red October.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as you guys talk about with the return of Yamamoto, you're getting a guy back that in 74 innings prior to his injury struck out 27.9% of his opponents, had a 2.94 ERA and a 2.62 FIP. The Dodgers are still finding ways to win games and still be a top team in the NL. A big part of that is Shohei Ohtani, who's closing in on 50-50, which is insane. When I was watching the Cubs-Dodgers game last night, and I'm like, wow, Shohei's different. But fortunately for Shohei Ohtani, he's not with the Angels anymore because he's now sitting in a position with the team to be top in the NL versus the Angels, who are going to miss out on the playoffs yet again.
Sad. I actually have a buddy from Anaheim.
It's a dumpster fire organization. Art Moreno's he's a terrible owner. They've been a mess for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, they tied the Dodgers 10 years in a row. That's rough. I sent that to my buddy this morning, who's from Anaheim, and he was just like, "Bro, I'm dead inside." Like, there's no, like, they're basically athletics fans, and they've had two of the, generational type players come through there in that 10-year period. It's pretty insane to fumble that.
You could add to, I know it was on the back end of his career, but you also at one point had Albert Pujols in that mix as well.
Who might be the most underrated player of the last 30 years.
You also at one point signed Josh Hamilton to a massive contract deal. Like they have and some of it's not their fault, right? Because they gave Anthony Rendon a ton of money. And the guy doesn't.
Mike Trout gets hurt all the time.
Rendon doesn't want to play baseball anymore, and I think the guy's just coming up with excuses at this point. But right, Mike Trout gets hurt all the time. Now they've not put together a string of good talent. Their pitching's not been great.
Never developed pitching. But who's the best Angels pitcher of the last 30 years? Jared Weaver.
Jared Weaver, probably.
And it's not really close.
I mean, I'd have to like go back and think about it.
Yeah, but my point is like nobody like comes to mind as somebody that could even.
The one year they went out and spent money on CJ Wilson and it didn't work out. They went out and spent money on a bunch of guys. They tried to acquire Zach Greinke at one point. It didn't work for them there. And then Zach Greinke went on and pitched well. Stephen Garrison brings up John Lackey, probably the other guy that you can bring up. But they've not had a strain of success. Because of a lot of unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good thing Ohtani's not with them anymore, as you mentioned, Jamie. 10 straight seasons for them missing the playoffs, tying Detroit for the longest streak. Not a good part of history you want to be in. Really quickly, as you're talking about Anthony Rendon, there's another Anthony out there that just hit his 40th home run, Jamie. I know you had something on him really quickly about some discourse around Anthony Santander.
Yeah, he had his 40th last night for the O's, having a great year, a looming free agent. And I've seen some people, whether it be in our Discord channel here at PHLY or on Twitter, mention him looking great in a Phillies uniform next year. He's gone out there and made himself some money this year. So Anthony Santander is definitely going to be a name that probably pops up a lot this winter.
We'll see. Santander to the Phillies. Who knows?
And he's a switch hitter that hits 40 home runs. Yeah.
Yes, he's a switch hitter.
And he can play left field for you. Like, he's going to be a name that makes a lot of sense for the Phillies, because I'll say this right here, guys. I'm not really a hot take person, but I'm going to say this with my chest. Austin Hayes will not be the starting left fielder for the Phillies next year.
Ooh, and on that note, that's how we will end the show. Austin Hayes will not be the starting left fielder, but we know he'll be the starting pitcher tonight. That is Ranger Suarez going up against Taj Bradley. 6:40 start. Our buddy Jamie will be down there checking out Ranger and the Phillies to watch the game.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one. See if they can win game number 2 of this series and help them win the series tonight. Take advantage of it. So for Tyler, Jamie, our friend Jim Salisbury, myself, Renee, let's hope the Phillies get a win tonight. Let's hope they keep the good times rolling. And that'll do it for us here at PHLY Phillies podcast presented by Bet365, where it's never ordinary to bet. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of the show. We will see you guys again live tomorrow, 11 a.m. for more here on PHLY Phillies podcast.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.